Okay. Let's take a look at these secondaries. What can we put in here? Hmm. Curious, curious, curious. Hmm. Let's take a look at the dread, for example, with this, with what I was talking about earlier. So, with your primary, right off the bat, you're gonna put, as long as you have these mods, you're gonna put on serration. Is it? It's not barrel diffusion. It's what? And split chamber. Multi-shot is nothing but a pure damage increase because it gives you that chance of shooting an extra bullet or arrow or whatever weapon it is. Now, secondaries do have the equivalent with lethal torrent, which is going to increase your fire rate as well as multi-shot, and barrel diffusion will give you more multi-shot. So, right off the bat, you're going to put on serration. You're going to put on split chamber if you have it. Right off the bat, there we go. We can take a look. In this case, looking at 50% crit, it would be insane not to build for crit, but it also has, we're up to a 34% status, which is also good. Now, hopefully I can remember these mods off the top of my head here. I'm gonna put in, as I said, it is crazy not to build for crit with 50%. So we're gonna put point strike and vital sense. That's going to increase our crit chance and our crit damage. So we got over 100%. Now, with that means we're going to get a yellow crit 100% of the time and a 25% chance of a red crit. Now, red crits do even more than the yellow crits. This multiplier here is for yellow crits. So, we're looking at that. And then next off, as I was saying, we do have 34% status. So, in this case, I do build for both status and crit. It's not infected, is it? It is infected. So, malignant force. These are your dual status. They only go up to 60% as opposed to 90, but they also give you status chance. So, I mean, you could go with just the 90% mods, such as Convulsion and Infected Clip. But personally, I find this to be a little more effective. Alright, so I did get the right one with that one. Boom. Like that. We're looking at around 8,000 for a sustained. Now, with a bow, I always use just about every time I'm going to tell you to put on a speed trigger. That way you're going to be able to pull the arrow back and shoot these faster and faster. So right off the bat, we're looking at this. We got good slash, which is going to take away that health regardless of the armor. We got corrosive that can proc, which can strip away the armor. A little interesting. I don't think speed trigger. Yeah, speed trigger isn't getting reflected in the DPS, which is a little interesting. So I mean, just going off of that, we're perfectly fine here. So you could then take a look. You could put in more damage, such as a 90% elemental. If you got anything else for crit, you can put that in there. If you have something for slash, such as a fanged fusillade. In this case, since it is the dread, it is not status, slash primarily, as compared to these types here, impact and puncture. That is why we're going to select a slash to get the most out of that. And just like that, take a look at that, those numbers. So, like, since it says over 100%, this crit is guaranteed every time. Now, the multi-shot, it's only 90%, so it's not 100% guaranteed, but take a look at that. Huge difference. So, there are occasions when you will want to build for crit and status to get the most out of a weapon. And other times where you may only want to build for just the crit or just the status. Another weapon that is completely obvious, it would be the Soma or the Soma Prime. So again, primary, first thing you're going to put on, duration, and that split chamber. Clicking, please. Okay, so we're looking at it. It's got a little more slash compared to puncture. Fire rate 15, that's alright. Crit 30%. Status probability 18%. Kind of want to go for both there. Again, but status not really needed, but helpful. 30% with a 3 times multiplier. You see something like this, where we're looking at it 3 times, definitely build for that crit. Always build for that crit. That weapon is just screaming to build for crit. So right off the bat, we'd go Point Strike, Vital Sense, and since it's got more slash, we can go Fanged Fusillade. Boom, boom, boom. Now, here's the difference where you can either go with something like, is it not Convulsion? What, Shocking? What is the mod? I thought it was Convulsion. Maybe not. But you can put in your 90% elementals in here if you wanted to go with damage. If you wanted to go with status, then I already closed that tab. Then you'd go with the what we had before on the Dread. Malignant Force. I can spell. And the high voltage. And you're pretty much in that same scenario where you can find something that you want to put in here for extra damage or more crit. So something like heavy caliber. Now, if you were to max that out, you are going to take quite the accuracy loss. Personally, my heavy caliber is only at 5 out of 10. Because I don't really want to lose that a huge accuracy. But you can see, just if you didn't care about that accuracy, you wanted to rank that all the way, you're looking at 14,000 sustained and around 17 to 18,000 burst. So we'll take a look at a secondary. Axe Stiletto Prime. Why not? Now, here's where we were talking before with secondaries. You're going to want to put Hornet Strike right off the bat. And if you have the mods, but Barrel Diffusion, and Lethal Torrent. Now, Lethal Torrent, I believe, has popped up as an alert reward. Barrel Diffusion is, I believe you can just get it as a drop within missions. So, cranking these up, you're already up to 3,000. That's before we put anything else on it. So we're looking at it, a 63% status. That is a very high status. So in this case, you could build for just pure status. But considering something like the fire rate, crits are going to proc fairly often, so you could go with critical status again, or you could just go for that status. Or if you figure that 63 is just fine. Maybe this is where the convulsion is. Ah, it is. This is where you could put in your 90 elementals if you, with 63% that's going to proc fairly often. So as you see, a lot of my builds do become similar, but that's because they are effective. Now, every now and then I might switch it up and put something completely different in, or you may have a situation like Excalibur, where his fourth ability, the Exalted Blade, is going to use the weapons on your melee. So you'd want to put the mods on there that are going to help that ability, if that's what you're building for. I am completely blanking on what it is, and I can't do a search. I thought it was Fever. Oh no, that's for melee. I'm completely derping on what the name of that mod is. I use it all the time. Pathogen rounds. There we go. And I use it all the time. So if you figure in this case that that status is high enough, boom, boom, there you go. It's a 2.0 times, so it's higher than normal. So personally, I'd want to build for crit. So I'm gonna get target cracker. Personally, you're gonna not personally, you're gonna want to get the prime versions if you can. You're gonna get target cracker and pistol gambit. That's gonna get your crit damage and your crit chance up. And I did just grab the primed one. Now, like I said, if you want primed, you should put that in there if you have it. But we're just looking at just purely this. We're up to that. Now, that gives you an extra slot that you can put anything you want. So, if you feel you needed more status, you could put in this, and that would boost your corrosive, give you a little more status in there. Or, just give you a little more of an actual number. There you go. So all of a sudden that 63 has now become 83, or you could put a completely different elemental in there for pure damage increase. Now, do keep in mind if you're using more than 2 elementals that the first 2 that show up are going to be what's used. So if I were to switch these around, instead of corrosive heat, we get radiation and toxic, because it's convulsion and then heated charge and then pathogen round. So if you want corrosive, you got to make sure you have electric and then toxic and then the fire. You wanted corrosive heat. So that is something to keep in mind. I do just want to go over a quick look at everything that you put on a basic before you take a look at the stats. So we're gonna pick a random, wow, voice crack. I know this is going on a little long. I just want to make sure that you guys get it. Let's take a look at, I don't know, Strun. Use the Strun for that. We'll use Despair. And then for melee, let's pick one of my favorites. We'll go with the Dragon Nakana. I love the Nakana series. Okay, so we're looking